All right, what was your most important contribution to your last or current employer?
Well, at Eagles, I sampled guacamole, and my most important contribute to my employer would have to be basically giving everyone that came in the door a free sample, or if they didn't want a free sample, basically just give them that friendly feel that Ingles tries to provide.
Okay. And how would you perform under a deadline pressure? Like, give me an example of that.
All right. Um, I would have to say that I would perform fairly well. I would do my best to not procrastinate and to show that I have initiative. Basically, go out and do the job as soon as I can versus later and not waste any time.
Okay. And describe a conflict or a disagreement in which you were involved with, and how did you resolve it?
I can't describe, I don't think I have any disagreements or anything like that.
Okay, fair enough. How would you react to criticism, like if someone's criticizing your job performance?
I would take it honestly. At first I'd probably be a little bit upset about it, but I think that after I paid attention and actually thought about it, I'd take it into consideration as a constructional criticism.
Okay. And what are two of the biggest problems you've encountered on your job, and how did you resolve them?
One of the biggest encounters I've encountered at my job is uh, basically being nice to the rude customers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with this, I'm very involved in my church, and I always like to set an example for others as a Christian, just in my own personal opinion. And I feel like that when you're setting an example, especially for a company, you should always love first. And that's one of my biggest things, is to try to be a better example for others, even if they aren't doing good to you. And the second example I would have to say is being, when things come up, to actually just push through it and basically man up kind of deal.
Yeah.
Just no questions about it, just go ahead and get it done.
Okay. And give me an example of a risk that you took at your job and how it turned out.
I don't know if I've had any risks that I've taken at my job necessarily. No, sir, I wouldn't say that I have any.
Okay, fair enough. So what would be your managerial style? Like, how would you lead a team? How would you manage them?
If I was to be a manager, in like a manager position, I'd be very laid back. I would be very to the point, though. When I would be wanting to build a relationship, I'd be very friendly. I would keep it to where if the employee had any questions or felt like they needed anything, they could always come to me. But when the time comes to get the job done, I'd make sure the job was done.
Okay. It's a very strong thing to have. Have you ever hired any employees? And if so, did they live up to your expectations?
No, I've never hired anybody.
Okay. Now since you haven't hired employees, but have you encountered any performance problems with anyone that you've trained? Have you ever trained anybody?
I have trained somebody.
Okay, what kind of performance problems did they have, if they had any?
Well,
how did you help the work
of
make
course,
through
with
it?
anybody that doesn't know the position, they're going to perform slower than somebody that is more experienced. But for what I've told them in the past is I would give them shortcuts, not to get around the job, but to get the job done faster and more efficiently than going through the long ways of going about it.
Okay. And describe a typical day at your job from when you clock in to when you clock out.
All right. A typical day at my job would be me clocking in, of course, and then going straight over to my guacamole stand where I would sample out and basically greet all the customers that come in the store. And I would just simply sample guacamole, make guacamole all day. I know it sounds very boring, but that's what I was doing. and I would greet every customer and basically put a smile on their face because I had a smile on my face.
Okay. And what book have you read recently?
I would have to say that I've read the book Matthew and Mark of the Bible, trying to read the Bible to get more of a Christian standpoint. I'm wanting to become more of a leader in my church. So, and also have that to fall back on for my own knowledge and education.
Okay. Now, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years from now?
I see myself being very successful. I understand things are going to be rough within the next 5 years, but for everything that I'll be doing in the next 5 years, I'll be a diesel mechanic, have my own place. I will be on the right path to progress with a family, as well as being able to be stable for myself.
Okay. I have a few more questions to ask. What are your strengths?
My strengths would have to be going out and doing it whenever I'm told to do it. Like if you were to give me a job to fulfill, I would go out and do it right then without any questions asked.
All right, and my last question I have to ask is, what would be your weaknesses? Like, how would you describe a downfall you'd have on the job?
My weaknesses would more than likely be time management. I'm very good at getting the job done when it needs to be, but when there's stuff that someone else, like if a fellow employee was to come up to me and say, hey, look, could you help me out with this? I'd more than likely get sidetracked helping them out than doing my own job, just because I want to help improve them as well as me, but help them out so they can get their job done too. But I need to work on basically sticking to what I need to do.
Okay. So that was all the questions, and I think that just about covers it. Thank you for coming to the interview.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too.